Currently, the farm is supported by the larger organization of tillers. We're not self-supporting. We don't see any benefit from subsidies here. We do international work abroad, and we do receive some USAID grants from that, but not for any of our domestic farming operations. Here at Tillers, our philosophy and my philosophy is sort of that things are appropriate scale. A lot of our work that we do internationally, we're looking at appropriate scale. And here it's, okay, how many animals can the land handle? Looking kind of towards nature as that guide. So before Tillers came to the site in 2003, dairy farmer was raising his replacement heifers, and he had 800 cows on this property. Basically had fenced off the perimeter, but hadn't fenced off waterways, and we do have the Portage River. Then NRCS provided us with some funding to help fence out those waterways. Interesting to see the photos where basically it was just brown and mud. And a lot of the pastures north now, have healthy stands of clover and orchard grass mixes. You should have the amount of acreage that's appropriate for your number of cows. And that means being able to spread that manure, have them out in the pasture, and not have the amount of manure they're producing go over the amount of phosphorus that you want to see in your waterways and your lakes. So one challenge in a system where you are moving cows frequently, it is more labor, and there are obviously labor costs, and it ties you down. We do more rotationally grazing with some species managed intensively. Having to move water and maintain fence line, and it's a lot more work in that way. If you can't necessarily get a higher price for your beef or for your lamb, you can't compete with what the large-scale operators are doing. I was just looking at the store, and I think milk was like $2.19 a gallon, and I'd been working on dairy farms in Maryland and Vermont where raw milk, small-scale, grass-based dairies, and for a half gallon, it was $5 or $6. We talk about sustainable agriculture in terms of the land, but it also has to make sense for the farmers and the people who are making a living off those animals. I think in terms of subsidies, what the government should really be looking at in terms of supporting farmers and the environment is paying for environmental benefits. So, we have sheep in conjunction with cows because they graze differently. And in the end, that can improve your bottom line in terms of you have good pasture, you can put weight on your steers quicker. Government money needs to be spent towards supporting small-scale farmers and the environmental benefits they can bring to the table. I don't think the USDA has ever had something where okay, if you have multi-species grazing, there's money for that. It's, okay, I'm trying to produce the most, pounds of meat off of this area. I mean, it's really not even like an area. It's, okay, how much can I maximize my profit? And that's just not what nature does. Or if she does, it leads to things like floods and natural disasters. We're currently working in Uganda and Mozambique. People locally will say they're feeling the effects of the U.S. subsidies for our farmers here, and it, disrupts their local markets. And if you have tons and tons of cheap fossil fuel, large-scale agro-industrial corn coming, that basically gets dumped and shipped overseas as food aid. It's very hard for local farmers who are farming, maybe 2 to 5 acres from being able to sell their corn and grain at a price that is actually sustainable and profitable for them and for their family. There are so many laws that are simply geared towards large-scale agro-industrial models. When you have those sorts of laws in place, the small-scale farmer is always going to be at a disadvantage. It's not just enough to say, oh, but I buy from my local organic farmer at the farmer's market. But if you don't change things at the larger level, eventually that small scale producer is going to get edged out. It's just a matter of time.
We do not receive any subsidies from the government, any government grants. And that's something that I have to tell people around here all the time because they think I get paid to do this. I founded Georgia Street by mistake. I was born and raised on Georgia Street. I lived there all my life, moved away for a little bit, and lost my job. I had to move back in December of 2007. Around February of 2008, I decided to take a walk in the neighborhood, going to the store or whatever. The snow was melting. There was a bunch of trash that was in the storm drains on the corner, and it had literally started flooding. So I'm out there with a stick trying to get everything flowing down the sewer drains. And I looked at the lots and I could see all this garbage that people had dumped. And I wanted to clean them up. I was trying to figure out how I was gonna keep people from dumping. And I decided that I was gonna plant a little small garden, plant some flowers, keep the grass cut. We had people coming out to see what we were doing. A lady in the neighborhood had 2 foster boys and a son. And she asked me, could I give them some structure? And she sent them down, faithfully. That first week, they were coming every day. And they must have had fun because they started bringing other kids from the neighborhood. We started doing movie nights and reading in the garden. And then I didn't want it to be something that I just did during the summer. I wanted to be able to work with them and mentor them all year. And a lady saw us, a lady from Arizona, she saw an article in The Guardian that we were in, and she decided to fund our rehab. And she's been sending us money ever since. That's kind of like 90% of our funding comes from one single person. You know, I always thought how it was when I was a kid growing up. We had fruit trees everywhere, and we had the adults that provided stuff for us to do. You know, we had block parties and different things like that. So I wanted to give those kids, you know, kind of the same feeling that I got when I was growing up, that it was a bunch of us, bunch of people taking care of us. It wasn't just our family, you know. It was the neighborhood, it was the village. When we first started, we noticed the pattern. And it'd be, you know, 8, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and you saw people walking through the path, which we kept. The grocery store closed at 9 o'clock, but they were going to the liquor store and the gas station. And they were coming back with like grocery bags. Well, we all know at the liquor store and the gas station, they don't sell fresh food. You know, there's no meat. Everything is processed or snacks. That's when we start thinking that we need to do something about this. I felt like I had to do something. I mean, it wasn't like it just popped into my head. It was like a gut-wrenching thing, you know, like this is crazy. My definition of a food desert is different from a lot of people's definition. Because we have a grocery store. Some definitions say that there's not a grocery store or a place you can get fresh produce. My definition of the food desert is that it's easier to go to the gas station to buy stuff than it is to go to the grocery store. I think it's more of how often you're able to go and buy fresh food. In my opinion, it's not that people with money are coming down picking in the community garden. You know, it's people that really need it that come and pick, and they really can't afford to go to Easter market every Saturday or farmer's market, you know, all the time. We always get, well, if this state funded, you know, I got a bridge card, or, you know, I got this, and, you know, I'm like, that's not how it works. Even though we do give a lot of stuff away for free, things come out of my pocket, you know, and things come from my work. Pay the $20 or pay the $10 for a family garden, and then you can get some of this, you know. And a lot of them don't understand, but we do not get any government funding. It started off as a beautification project. I knew we would be able to eat it, you know, but then finding out, you know, what some corporations were putting into our food to supposedly make it better, but mostly to make it grow faster, you know, and not die and keep growing. And, you know, the things that they were putting into it is I believe is affecting everyone's health. That's probably the main reason why I kept going, you know, that I feel like I need to show people and teach people what's going on. So hopefully the kids around here will be able to either do a project like this or maybe even take it another step forward and develop the neighborhood and make sure the neighborhood keeps redevelopment over and over again the way it needs to be. When you get involved and get informed, you know what your meat should look like, even when you go to the grocery store. People would really be more community minded, taking care of each other. You know, if something's going on and if you can help. You know, and that is not charity, you know, that it's actually human. You know, that's what we're supposed to do. You know, we're supposed to take care of each other. And I think that needs to be global.
The average consumer pretends that they want local sourced food and organic vegetables and all of this stuff that sounds great to the ear, but when it comes to the wallet, the majority of people are not willing to pay.
Oh, turn your lamps down low. Turn your lamps down low. Keep the lights so dim that you
My father passed away December 2013 in Tuco. I do not wish to be 27 and owner and operator. That's not the way it's supposed to be. But life happens, and it happens quickly.
When I was a child, my nerves ran wild, and I watched my friends rise to the tops of the trees.
I always liked tooling around outside, being outside. Work is literally outdoors. I get up at 5:30 or so, and I'm out by 5:35. Always did it, always liked it. I'm a big believer in, if you have animals, you need to take care of them. They are my children. Just the same way I feel if you have children, it's not somebody else's job to raise them, that's your job. It's a small dairy herd. We milk approximately 50 cows, and we have a total of about 130 cows total. We don't use hormones, and we never have. Some farms did, and they don't anymore either because it's banned in Michigan. We ship, I don't know, about 6,000 pounds of milk every other day. It's marketed through NFO, and where it goes differs every other day. We don't get paid much of anything. I get paid something like $1 a gallon for my milk right now. Maybe a little bit more, $1.10, $1.20. Okay, but that's for milk. My 100% milk. So they're skimming fat off to get your whole milk, to make your cream, to make your butter, to make your ice cream. So basically they take all the fat and protein out of milk and then add it back to give you your fat-free and your 0.5% and your 1 and your 2. Okay, and it starts a whole lot higher than that, but they suck it off and make all these other products for it, and they're only paying us $1 a gallon for the whole thing. And all we do is just take it because there's too much milk out there. We can't do anything about the price. I am a price taker, which doesn't make sense to anybody in the world that I produce a good, but I don't get to set my price. All I do is take it. And everybody else that I buy from tells me what I'm gonna pay. So it doesn't make sense all of a sudden, if my bills are, they're set, that's X, and I have to figure out how to make those payments, but I don't get to set my Y. I just have to hope that it's enough. I don't like handouts, but at the exact same time, if I can't set my price, then subsidies are almost necessary. In order to keep the price down, the government has to hand out money because we can't make a living, but I personally don't care for them. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I sign up, I take mine and use them to pay bills. At least for me, at this size, that money is gone well before I ever see it. That's normal business. So what are we to do? If the government's gonna tell us they're gonna give us money just for signing up, and it's super simple on our part, and we don't have to do anything extra, so it's just money that's coming our way because we don't get to set a price. And they're saying that the price is so low that we can't make a living. The frustration that you hear from other farmers is doing this job for free. I am not making money this year. I didn't make money last year. So that's the frustrating part about it, is working the hours that we do. Like I said, we love it. There's no doubt about it. You wouldn't do it if you didn't. The hours suck, The pay sucks. Your personal life sucks. You can't do much of anything unless it's here. I don't see friends, friends see me. And then when you can't even make money doing it, that's what really drives you crazy. You just question why you continue to do this for nothing.
Out of the ocean, over the harbor, let no sunset, let no daughters.
I think the system is too broke to come back from where we're at. I believe in the local push. And the niche markets help people pay, but they need to be educated. People need to know where their food comes from. Too many people are not willing to pay more for food, so the big farms will always be there. That driving of the price down will always be there. And I don't see it ever coming back. I'm all about educating people, and I feel like there's a lot of farmers that are also about educating people on what actually happens here. If quality food is important to you and what you're putting in your body is important, go local, because most of the local guys are very happy and willing to show you what their farm is, what it looks like, where it's at, what they're doing. And that would probably be the best thing if really food is important to you. But a majority of Americans, I don't think care.
A bird that's pastured outside, able to roam, not confined in small spaces. They just do better when they're outside. There are a lot of big scale turkey farms that raise their birds confined with the chemicals and the toxins that they use. The big lagoons, which aren't pleasant to smell, the runoffs that happen there, those aren't good things. Environmentally, those are things that we're going to pay for. We pasture raise our turkeys. We feel that's what makes the difference as far as the quality of the meat. Their droppings are high in nitrogen, and that's great for the soil. We don't use any antibiotics, and we use a GMO-free feed, and that's a higher cost feed. But the people that we sell to, the high end, that's what they want, and so that's what we're producing for them. We were 100 birds, and now we're at 5,000 birds, and we really don't do any advertising. It's just kind of the momentum that has happened up in our area. Almost every little town in Michigan anymore has a farm market. And a lot of the people that go to farm markets are those people that are looking for that quality, clean meat. The cost is more, but people that want a clean meat are willing to pay for it, and we're grateful for that. A lot of people ask, is it free range? Free range just means the bird has to have access to outdoors. It doesn't mean the bird even goes outside. Or it can maybe, all it has, when it goes outside, it's maybe just a dirt lot. And there'll probably always be a market for them because a lot of people are just looking for the cheapest meat that they can buy. They're not necessarily looking for the high quality. Make sure your farmer's doing what he claims he's doing, Ask him questions and make a visit. We always welcome our customers to come out and take a look. Turkey meat that we produce is high in omega-3 fatty acids, which are good for us and hard to get through traditional meats. Our area here, there's just great support for the local farmer. We're at farm markets, and people, they're thanking us for what we're doing. We thank them for purchasing, obviously. The kind of people we meet at farm markets, they want to know how we raise them because they're very interested in where their meat comes from. And eating a clean meat, in the long run, it's worth it, just from a health standpoint. Once you have a Dirksen turkey, I don't think you'll go back to anything else. Many people have told us that, and we're really grateful for those positive comments.
Probably I was supposed to be a farmer my whole life. Probably 14, 15 years ago. And I just cashed in my retirement and said, let's go, and started with just about nothing. I'd already named the farm Train Dance because the first year I moved here, they came flying into the wetlands, and I just kind of said, this is their home. I started from that perspective, and then moving along, learned that the dance of the cranes in Eastern philosophy represented the joy of life. We practice multi-species rotational grazing, which means that we have cows, pigs, and birds and a few sheep, and they all move around the farm to eat different forages and do different things for the soil. When I first came here and there were only 5 acres, there was really nothing, and the farm had been abused. And in the 55 acres that are here now, you can tell by what plants grow, what's going on with the soil. One of the things we have to do are soil tests to make sure that minerals are in the grasses are good for the animals and a good balance. It comes back absolutely perfect. We don't need anything. My mom taught me to love nature and plants and animals, and it wasn't until college that I kind of put together that had a lot to do with agriculture. But what I learned in college about agriculture scared me about the food system and where it was heading. Our food system is a disaster. It doesn't really matter if you're talking about factory farming of animals or industrial tomato farming. It's all kind of the same. It's monocropping in one way or another, and it all relies on a lot of bad inputs. And those inputs are making us sick. When you have industrial livestock farming, factory farms, everything is mechanical, and the waste from those animals becomes a problem. Pollution, chemicals that are all getting into our waterways. We know the factory farming systems are failing. It's not sustainable. We can't keep putting animals in crowded conditions, not expecting them to get sick, because they will. And that's a pretty big deal. I mean, we think it's pretty bad that we don't create all of our energy and we get in wars over oil. But if you start talking about we can't create our own food, that's a really big deal. We need to start moving subsidies to create new farmers, new young, especially livestock farmers. I mean, we have the reputation of having the most expensive and the very best meat, maybe in the state of Michigan. And I know we are, but we try to do everything to make our product as clean and nutritious as possible. We really can feed the planet with small, sustainable, local farms. When we went through the drought year a few years ago, we really, I mean, it just about took us down. It was a severe drought, and there was honestly no help out there for us. The only thing that the government really did was they freed up some CRP land to create hay, and we had to buy that hay. And we're still paying for that because that hay brought all kinds of bad weeds to our farm that, because we don't use chemicals, we're literally pulling by hand. I think most small farmers have a harder time with the equipment purchases because they're not out there buying millions of dollars worth of equipment. And the people that are buying millions of dollars of equipment are getting millions of dollars in subsidies. Nature has a better way. And the better way is to start somewhere, because that's the only way in anything that we can create change as consumers, is to start somewhere with your pocketbook. Start somewhere, get to a farmer's market. It's a journey. It is not a, everything all at once. You can't do that. You'll get overwhelmed. The American farmers are getting old, and the USDA is starting to figure that out. And it's something like 85% of American farmland is going to change hands in the next 5 to 10 years. There are a lot of people out there like us who are looking for somebody who would really like to do what we're doing, who can take over our farm. Because we really want it to stay a farm. We've done all this work to improve it, to kind of piece this old farm back together again. I don't want to see it get developed. I want the cranes to come back here. I want the cows to dance with the cranes. I want it to be a happy place, because it keeps getting better, and it should keep getting better. And every piece of land can be healed like that.
Happy is the man who wants for nothing. Happy is the liar. Happiness is itself desire. So long as the fire